everyone. Can you hear me well? Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're really excited to be here. Welcome to the presentation on VegOresto, how to eat vegan in restaurants. My name is Christina. I'm one of the VegOresto ambassadors, and I'm joined by Lori, who's one of the full-time employees working on the VegOresto campaign. We are both based in Paris, and this is our second year at this conference. First year presenting, though, so, you know, we're not stressed at all. We're cool, no problem. The topic of today is the VegOresto campaign in France. VegOresto is essentially an online database that lists restaurants that have plant-based options. Now, many of you have probably heard of and used a website and application called Happy Cow. So you'll see many similarities between Happy Cow and VegOresto, but also many differences, namely our proactive approach when reaching out to restaurants that don't have a plant-based option. First of all, I would like to summarize our talk today. I will begin by presenting to you L214. L214 is the biggest animal rights organization in France, and it is the organization behind the VegOresto campaign. I'll provide you with a few key numbers, as well as talk to you about the holistic approach that L214 has to animal rights activism. On one end, raising awareness on the problem of animal exploitation, and on the other end, providing the solution. VegOresto is part of the second axis of communication, providing the solution. So in the second part of our talk today, I will talk to you about VegOresto, how we reach out to restaurants, what are the tools that we use, some of the strengths and weaknesses of the campaign, as well as some of our future projects. Let's start by talking about L214. For those of you who have not heard of this organization, L214 is the biggest animal rights organization in France. It focuses solely on animals exploited by humans for human consumption, so the animals that we farm, which represent the majority of the animals exploited by human activity. L214 was created in 2008 and has grown exponentially ever since, starting with one full-time employee in 2009 and growing to 40 full-time employees today, 30,000 members and donors, and that number is growing, as well as a huge social media following. We have close to 700,000 likes on our Facebook page. L214 has two axes of communication, raising awareness on animal exploitation and providing the solution. In terms of raising awareness, there's four main means of communication that we employ. First of all, let's talk about the biggest one, investigations. L214 makes available to the public videos and undercover footage filmed in slaughterhouses and animal farms all across the country. Over the last 3 years, L214 has become extremely popular by making these videos, these scandalous videos, available to the public and essentially shaking the animal agriculture industry and bringing the question of animal rights in the heart of the public debate. Through these videos, L214 has grown extremely popular, and these have been covered, first of all, in social media, that they have been shared a lot. In addition to that, they have been also covered by traditional media, so through TV programs, as well as traditional newspapers, some of the biggest media in France, for example, Le Monde. In addition to investigations, we also practice corporate outreach. So this is the second means of raising awareness. Corporate outreach consists in the following. We reach out to corporations and we encourage them to eliminate some of the most cruel practices when it comes to animal exploitation. To give you an example, we reach out to supermarkets and we encourage them to eliminate the distribution of eggs laid by hens in battery cages. We are proud to say that most of the supermarkets that we have contacted today have now committed with a strict deadline, have given a date when they will commit to eliminate these products from their line of distribution. The third topic I want to cover today is general public outreach. This is one of the biggest parts of the activism that L214 carries out. It's essentially reaching out to our fellow citizens. Thanks to a huge network of volunteers and local coordinators all across the country, we are able to carry out weekly or even more frequent events. For example, here there's a picture you see of a vegan place that we organized in Paris. This is essentially a vegan village where passers-by can stop by, try vegan food, get information, and also view some of these videos that I mentioned earlier. In addition to those events, we also organize a lot of street activism. We do a lot of leafleting, as well as food sampling, vegan food tasting, as well as vegan hugs, free hugs. So here you see a picture of an event we organized for Easter in Paris. And this was very successful. Basically, we dressed up as animals. We were distributing vegan chocolate for Easter, and it really allowed us to have meaningful conversations with our fellow citizens around the topic of animal exploitation. On a personal note, I would like to highlight the efficiency, I think, of free hugs, because these events really are met with a lot of success, especially with children in the street. They really respond quite positively to this. And I personally have found myself in a small social experiment without my knowing in my office. So I'll tell you a brief story about that. So essentially, I have a colleague of mine who's a good friend, and every once in a while, whenever he has vegan lunch, he'll just come and see like, hey, Christina, check me out, I'm having a vegan lunch. And I'm like, this is amazing, you know, let's hug it out, vegan hug. And then all of a sudden, he started doing that more and more often. So every time he had vegan lunch, he'll just tell me he has vegan lunch, and then, you know, he knows he'll get his vegan free hug. And in addition, my other colleagues started seeing that, and so they started doing the same thing. So every time they had vegan lunch, they'd be like, hey, where's my hug, you know? And just to be clear, you know, I only do this with colleagues who are actually my friends, you know. Please don't think that I run around the office hugging people. But I think that this goes to say that there's really a real power in this positive reinforcement that is conveyed by the free vegan hugs. So, you know, or, you know, vegetarian high five. You just, you know, go with it. Try something. We'll see. All right, moving on, going back to the presentation, back to L214, which is the organization also that organizes the march to close down all slaughterhouses. As you know, this is a huge international event that takes place in many cities around the world, and in France we organize it in two major cities, Paris and Toulouse. And last but not least, L214 has recently also entered the political sphere as one of the founding members of the political party Politics and Animals that was founded earlier this year, and that was present at the parliamentary elections that happened again earlier this year. This concludes the first axis of communication that L214 exercises, raising awareness. The second one is providing the solution. Now, after opening the eyes of our fellow citizens and opening their consciousness to what happens to animals behind closed doors, they come to us and they ask for solutions. What can we do in order to reduce or eliminate our contribution to animal suffering through our food choices? This is when the second axis comes in, providing the solution. L214 has two major campaigns on this subject. One is Vegan Pratique, which loosely translates to vegan practice or vegan in practice. And the second one is VegOresto, which is the second part of our presentation. Now, let's briefly talk about Vegan Pratique. This is a website that is a one-stop shop for all things vegan. You can find information from nutrition to easy plant-based recipes and to all the reasons behind going vegan, from the ethical reason to the environmental reason, humanitarian and health reasons. Vegan Pratique, earlier this year, 3 months ago actually, launched a 21-day veggie challenge, which is similar to Veganuary, and we have more than 10,000 people who participated in this veggie challenge, which is vegan challenge. And now let's move on to the topic of our talk, VegOresto. To quote one of the thought leaders of our movement, the vegan strategist, give people great tasting vegan food and all the rest will become a lot easier. Now, to me, this is an extremely powerful quote that reminds me a personal experience that I lived through last year when I was on holiday in Barcelona. So I'm on holiday with my family, and we're celebrating my aunt's 50th birthday. So it's me, my mom, and my brother, my aunt and my uncle, and their 2 sons, so essentially my cousins. So picture this: Barcelona, Spain, party of 7, 1 vegan. So here we are, going to traditional restaurants all the time. And you know, in Spain, there's a whole bunch of tapas, and usually you can find plant-based tapas, so it's fine. It's not the best food that I've ever had, but I know it's only a short week, and I'll soon be back in Paris, where VegOresto is going strong, and I can have a ton of plant-based food all across the city. So here we are, 4 days into the holiday, and at that point, my brother, my amazing brother, in this rush of solidarity for his vegan sister, he says, you know what, you guys, we should just go to a vegan dinner for once, you know, like one evening we go to a vegan restaurant. And I panic, because, you know, I've never been to Barcelona before, I don't know any vegan restaurants, and whenever I take omnivores to a vegan restaurant, I make sure I've tried it before, because there's nothing worse than giving mediocre vegan food to an omnivore. And so I'm looking at my brother, I'm like, are you sure about this? And he says, yeah, we should do this. And then my family goes, are you sure about this? And he says, yeah, you guys, we should do this. Let's try it once. And okay, so both of us, we go online, we start looking for a restaurant. An hour goes by, we read through comments, and then we find the restaurant. Okay, so we're going to the restaurant. My family has half-heartedly agreed to this culinary adventure in Barcelona, trying a vegan restaurant. We go to the restaurant, we arrive at this sketchy neighborhood, there's not much light, there's not many people at all, and you know, the absence of enthusiasm is palpable. And we enter in this restaurant, we go in, and there is nobody in the restaurant. It's just us and the owner. And this is when I really start praying to all the vegan gods, and I start ordering sangrias, because I don't know how this evening is going to end. A few short minutes later, the food starts arriving. And this is when I see amazing platters with tapas, delicious hummus, juicy burgers, vegan shrimp and vegan paella. And I'm super happy because the food is amazing. And I look around the table, and my family is having the time of their life. They're really enjoying the food, and let me tell you, food is important for my family. At that point, I just can't believe my eyes, and this is amazing what's happening. My mother and my aunt, who are exquisite cooks and have pretty high standards as far as food is concerned, they both tell me, you know what, we were a little bit skeptical about this place at first, but we have to tell you that this is the best food we've had so far in our trip in Barcelona, which is insane. And then they tell me, this paella, this vegan paella, is better than all the non-vegan paellas we've had so far, and let me tell you, there were many of those. And at that point, I just did not believe this could get any better. And this is when, let's not forget, we are in Barcelona to celebrate my aunt's 50th birthday. And this is happening the following evening. So her sons have already made a reservation in this very chic restaurant by the sea, a restaurant that typically serves fish and other sea life. This is where we are supposed to be going the following evening. However, my aunt, at that moment, she says, you know what, you guys, I'm enjoying this place immensely, so are you. Let's just cancel the reservation for tomorrow and come back here to this vegan restaurant so I can celebrate my 50th birthday here. And at that point, I can tell you, I was the happiest vegan alive because I could not believe that was possible. So this goes to show that I personally believe that good vegan food is crucial to the success of our movement. Those of you who are curious, the restaurant in Barcelona, it's called Barcelonita Sangria Bar. And by the way, this is not sponsored. Let's now move on to the second part of our talk, VegOresto. So as mentioned, this is essentially an online database, a website listing restaurants that have plant-based options. It's a campaign that was launched in 2015. There are 3 full-time employees, these wonderful ladies you see on the screen. Oh, there's a bit of a resolution problem, sorry about that. There are also 150 ambassadors all across the country, such as myself, spread out in 40 cities, 40 teams across the country, whose main role is to organize vegan challenge dinners. So I'll talk to you a little bit later about what those are. Now, one of the unique characteristics of VegOresto is the fact that in order for a restaurant to be part of the VegOresto network, we encourage them, we require them to sign a document, essentially signing a charter by which they commit to permanently have a plant-based offer on their menu. Now, why is that? For those of you who are not familiar with French cuisine, let me tell you that it is extremely unplant-based. So unlike Italian or Thai or Indian or even Bulgarian, which is my home country, French cuisine unfortunately has practically no traditional plant-based meals. Other than Pixar-made famous ratatouille or French fries and baguettes, there isn't anything else in terms of plant-based options. So eating out in restaurants, eating plant-based can be challenging. If you're a vegan and you go to a traditional French restaurant, you are probably going to ask for a special meal to be prepared for you. And this is something that we are used to now. And the restaurant would typically oblige. There's no much problem in that. It's not going to be the best meal of your life, but you still get the meal. However, if you are a flexitarian or a reducitarian, and if you are presented with a menu that has the plant-based option, you are likely to opt for that option. But if you are presented with a menu that does not have the option, you are less likely to go out of your way and out of your comfort zone to request a special meal, a special vegan meal to be prepared for you. So VegOresto's goal is essentially making plant-based options available in restaurants and empowering, namely, that population of flexitarians and reducitarians to always be able to opt for the plant-based option, making it available permanently on the menu. So how do we approach the two types of restaurants? So there's two types. The first type is restaurants that don't have a plant-based option, and the second type is restaurants that do have a plant-based option but are not yet part of our network. So let's talk about the first type first. We approach them by organizing vegan challenge dinners. So a team of ambassadors will just pick out a restaurant, go in, introduce ourselves, talk about the campaign, and invite the chef or the owner to participate in a one-off vegan challenge dinner. For one evening, we invite them to participate. So the concept is simple. The chef would elaborate a 3-course menu that is entirely plant-based for a fixed price. Then our team will take care of all the rest, communicating and promoting the event, taking the reservations, and bringing in the clientele. On average, we have between 20 and 50 patrons per dinner. We organize these dinners on average once a month in the 40 locations that I mentioned. So once the restaurant agrees, we agree on the menu and the price, and then the dinner takes place. So we just go to the dinner, we have food. This is mostly what we do is we have food all the time. And after the dinner takes place, we send a satisfaction questionnaire to all the participants. So we would like their feedback on their experience, the quality of the food, the ambiance, the service, that sort of thing. Once we receive all the information from the survey, we compile it in a satisfaction survey summary that we provide to the restaurant as a follow-up feedback and ask the restaurant for their feedback. So the goal of this is the following. First of all, we allow chefs to get acquainted with plant-based cuisine. Second of all, we demonstrate that there is genuine demand for plant-based food by allowing them to cook for 50 people. And thirdly, we encourage them, now that they have already developed this 3-course menu, we encourage them to add it to their permanent offering, that menu or a different one if they will, to add a plant-based offering to their menu permanently, sign the charter, and become part of our network. This is essentially how the system works, and we are happy to say that 4 out of 5 restaurants who have participated in the Vegan Challenge are today part of our network. Now, in addition to these, mostly we organize Vegan Challenge dinners, but lately we've been experimenting with also other formats. For example, a few months ago, we organized a brunch, a bento brunch in Paris, which was met with great success. In addition, I would like to mention that we also seize the opportunities of holidays, national holidays, and organize themed dinners around those. To give you an example, 2 weeks from now, France is celebrating Gastronomy Day. So as you can imagine, gastronomy is huge in France because, food is important there. And as mentioned earlier, unfortunately, in traditional restaurants, food is primarily non-plant-based. So we reach out, we target specifically restaurants that are traditional French restaurants or bistros, and we invite them to participate in the Vegan Challenge as otherwise they would be serving exclusively animal-based products. We're happy to say that this tradition has been going strong for 3 years now, and we're looking forward to the dinner that is happening in 2 weeks in Paris. If you are in Paris, let us know. You're welcome. So to summarize the timeline of our approach to restaurants that don't have a plant-based option. So we get in touch with them, we invite them to participate in a challenge, they say challenge accepted, and then we have the dinner, then there's the satisfaction questionnaire, we summarize it, we present it to the chef or the owner, and we encourage them to join our network. This is the restaurants that don't have a plant-based option. Now let's talk about those that do have a plant-based option, but are not yet part of our network. We add these restaurants to our network in 3 main ways. First one is the following. If the restaurant knows of our campaign, they can just jump on our website, sign the charter online, and become part of the network. Easy peasy. The second one is through direct referencing. Direct referencing is done by ambassadors or Lori or other people who work on this campaign. Whenever we come across restaurants that have a plant-based option, we just take out the charter, we tell them about the campaign, and we encourage them to sign the document and be part of our network. What I forgot to mention about the vegan challenge dinners and also direct referencing is that becoming part of the network or participating in the challenge dinners is completely free for restaurants. In other words, for them it's a great opportunity to meet with this new type of clients, and it is also a great opportunity to provide visibility to their establishment and to their plant-based offering for free. Moving on to the third way of adding restaurants that have a plant-based option to our network is basically, I forgot to mention, excuse me. So there's on the top right-hand side, you see a sticker. This is basically a sticker that we fix on the door of the restaurants that are part of our network to provide them with additional visibility. And thirdly, adding restaurants by help of our users. So we have tens of thousands of people who use our network, and we provide them with little thank you cards that you're going to see. My colleague here is showing you. So these cards are, you can see also on the screen. So essentially, whenever people go to restaurants and come across a restaurant that has a plant-based option, they can just leave these cards. The cards essentially say, thank you, I came to your restaurant because you have a vegan option. Please join the VegOresto network. And this allows us to increase our visibility with restaurant owners and increases also the people who join the network. So that is pretty much our approach to those types of restaurants. And now let's move on to the next part of our presentation, which is the tools that we use. Now, let's talk about first the website. This is basically our main tool. This is where the database lives. Users can just jump on the website, find restaurants near their location, and go and have plant-based food. The website allows you to leave comments and ratings of your favorite restaurants. And these comment sections generate a certain amount of work for us in terms of moderation. So I would like to highlight 2 case scenarios that are important here. The first one is in the event that we get a negative comment, we make sure to let the restaurant know and allow them the opportunity to provide a reply. And the second case scenario I want to highlight is in some rare cases, we may get a comment saying that the restaurant no longer has the plant-based option. So if that happens, then we get in touch with the restaurant, see what's what, and find out what's happening and whether they're planning to add it back on, because unfortunately, if they don't, they no longer qualify as part of our VegOresto network. In addition to our website, we also engage with our community through social media. So we have growing followings on Facebook and Instagram, and we recently also launched our Twitter page. On Facebook, we generally share articles around plant-based cuisine, lifestyle, recipes, that sort of thing. And on Instagram, we obviously share pictures of epic vegan food. You know, working the hashtag what vegans eat, and hashtag vegans of Instagram, and hashtag food porn. You know, it's quite engaging. I encourage you to check us out at VegOresto. I promise a lot of hummus, pictures of hummus. There are a lot. Okay, so next to last topic I would like to cover is the strengths and weaknesses. VegOresto is a relatively young campaign, and there's still a few things we would need to work on, but there's also many strengths that are unique to our campaign. First of all, I would like to highlight the fact that, as far as we know, VegOresto is a unique concept. So the idea of proactively reaching out to restaurants, encouraging them to develop and maintain a plant-based offering and adding it permanently on their menu is a unique concept and also allows us to develop this plant-based offer, whereas otherwise that restaurant may take years before they develop a plant-based offer by themselves. The second strength I would like to highlight is our global reach. So thanks to the huge network of VegOresto ambassadors, we have a global reach that allows us to develop plant-based supply and demand in smaller cities. Not just in bigger towns and the capital, where obviously veganism and plant-based food is growing. We also have the opportunity to develop this lifestyle and this food in smaller towns. In addition to that, thanks to being backed by a big organization like L214, VegOresto is entirely financially independent. Moving on to the weaknesses, the first one I would like to highlight is the IT. So our website needs to undergo a major revamp. Currently, the search algorithm needs to be improved. We have over 20,000 visits per month, and the visit sessions usually last over 2 minutes. So we have a very engaged community, and we would like to provide a tool that is more user-friendly so that they can use it in a better and more efficient way. And secondly, one question we get a lot is essentially our mobile app. So we are still working on that. It is not yet released, but it should be ready in the next few months in the App Store near you. Now, let's move on to the second weakness. Yes, no income generation. So as mentioned, L214 is backing VegOresto, so we are financially independent. Nevertheless, everything that we do is entirely provided for free to restaurants, whereas the campaign generates expenses such as marketing materials, payroll, as well as the technical maintenance of the website. And last but not least, low press coverage. So every time we organize vegan challenge dinners, especially when they're themed ones, for Gastronomy Day, for example, we make a point to send out press releases to local media and encourage them to cover our event. However, unfortunately, so far, we have met with little success as far as that coverage is concerned, so we would like to work more towards improving our press coverage, essentially. And the last topic of our talk today, future projects. Let me talk to you about the future projects that we're very excited about. The first one I want to mention is VegOresto Squad. This essentially is already a reality. This is a group of volunteers based in Paris whose main role is to roam the streets of Paris and seek out restaurants that already have the plant-based option. So essentially, the idea is that they do the direct referencing that we mentioned earlier, inviting restaurants to join our network completely for free. The second future project is chains. Reaching out to chains and adding them to our network allows us to add a whole bunch of restaurants in one go. We already have a few chains that are part of our network, but we would like to reach out to more. For example, Pret à Manger or Flunch, and why not even KFC one day? You know, the sky is the limit, ultimately. The third project I would like to mention is one that I'm particularly excited about, is developing events within the network. So we would like to develop events that would allow to foster the sense of community of the members of the VegOresto network and allow chefs to mingle and network with their peers around the topic of plant-based cuisine. The fourth project is highlighting top quality. So as mentioned, we have a system of rating on our website where we get the average of all the ratings from users who have left comments. But we would like to put in place a system similar to the Michelin stars, for example, to highlight restaurants that have premium gourmet plant-based offering. So that would be a system of stars. Can you think of a name we might give those stars? Vigorous stars? I don't know. It's an idea. And lastly, it's almost over. Lastly, the autumn universities. So as I mentioned, VegOresto and L214 have the global reach that they do, largely thanks to a huge base of volunteers that are spread across the country. So L214 ambassadors and VegOresto L214 coordinators and VegOresto ambassadors all across the country. The idea is that we bring them together once a year over a weekend to allow them to meet each other, to provide them with additional training and allow them to mingle around various topics that we're interested in. And with that, I will conclude our talk today. There's 3 things I would like to add in conclusion. First of all, if you are interested in creating a campaign similar to VegOresto in your community, please feel free to reach out to us over the next 4 days. We're more than happy to discuss this with you and provide you with more information. Second of all, if you want to know more about L214, there should be a talk on this topic during one of the plenaries. I encourage you to check out the program and attend that. And third, you should no longer be afraid of French cuisine. Please visit France. Now that we have VegOresto, you are more than welcome. Thank you, and let's open it for questions.
Hi. So I was wondering, when you deal with these chefs from restaurants that don't have any plant-based options, are they, because I'm assuming they are probably unfamiliar with vegan food. Do you have like some sort of specialists on your team that provide them with consultancy? How do you decide a menu and how do you plan a menu?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. Thank you. So essentially what we do is when we talk to them, we first ask them, have you had any requests for plant-based food? Essentially, and always the answer is always yes, because there's a lot of people asking for vegan food, except they don't offer it by default. So when a restaurant agrees to become part of the vegan challenge dinners, we provide them with a booklet that, first of all, lists all the food items that are considered non-vegan. Because, for example, honey, that people are not always clear on that. So we list all the items that are not considered vegan. We also provide them with sample recipes, as well as there's also interviews with other chefs that talk about their experience. And if they struggle, we are able on our team, for example, I would sometimes share recipes and provide the restaurant with ideas for recipes if they're struggling. So we do that. We provide them with documentation that answers most of their questions. And if there's any additional questions, then the ambassadors take care of those. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
My question is, how come that you are so successful and so big in France, since you don't make money? Maybe I didn't understand the answer you gave, because you are only doing activism and making no money out of it, but you have to pay the salaries and the IT and the techniques and so on. Can you please give me or us again the answer?
Absolutely. So let me elaborate a little bit on that. So VegOresto is a campaign that is launched by the organization L214. That organization is the biggest animal rights organization in France that is financed through donations. And those donations allow L214 to finance VegOresto, which essentially allows us to, so we are as successful as we are because the work that we do is for free for restaurants, but is financed by L214. Because L214 receives donations from people who support the cause, support animal rights activism, and VegOresto is just part of the spectrum of activities that L214 engages in. I hope that answers your question.
So L214 goes directly into VegOresto, the money.
L214 finances VegOresto, yes, exactly. Thank you.
You've mentioned that it's got a global reach, and I was wondering, is there any chance you would include restaurants from all over the world?
Yes, that's a great question. Most of the restaurants, or practically like 99% of the restaurants, are in France. We have, I think, 2 restaurants in Monaco. One of them, the Djokovic restaurant, I think. They're referenced in the VegOresto campaign. But so currently we don't plan on having this global reach, simply because L214 is currently a national organization, and so currently we focus on France. And as I mentioned earlier, many of other national cuisines already have some plant-based options that are available by default, whereas French traditional cuisine unfortunately does not have those. So I think France, as well as many other countries, requires a special attention when it comes to the development of the plant-based offer. So it's just basically a question of us being based in France. But if you have an organization elsewhere, we're more than happy to share our know-how with you.
Did you sometimes have the problem that a restaurant would offer, let's say, mediocre vegan food just to be fulfill the quota? Does the rating system basically take care of that?
Do you mean the vegan challenge dinners or the ones that are already part of the network?
Already in the network.
Already part of the network, yes. Okay, so sure, as I mentioned, there are sometimes restaurants that are not that are less exquisite than others. So I think we leave the rating system do what it does, providing the average. And then users, usually when you live in a city, usually know most of the restaurants. And so currently we leave the system as is, and the average just is indicative of the quality. And there's also comments that highlight that. Oh, yes. In addition, we also make sure that there's an equivalent vegan offering to that is non-animal based. For example, that is animal based, sorry. For example, if a restaurant has starters, main and dessert that are animal based, we require the same equivalent. And usually we encourage them to, if the dessert they plan on adding is, for example, fruit salad, we let them know that, we encourage them, it is advisable that they consider a more elaborate dessert. So we provide them with some feedback. Thank
you. How do you pick the restaurants for the vegan challenge? And also you said that they have to elaborate a menu at a fixed price. And how do you choose that price?
Yes, great question. I did not mention that. Thank you. So picking out a restaurant is relatively easy. We just, as we just walk around, we go out frequently, and we just see a restaurant that seems nice, but does not have a plant-based option. So we add it to the list of candidates. When we reach out to the restaurant, we talk about the challenge, and when we agree on the fixed price, it would always be, in general, an average of their current menu already. So we'll take an average of the menu. We'll try to lower the price a little bit, which is not always possible, but then we will encourage the restaurant to throw in a complimentary drink or coffee, which is usually appreciated by the patrons. So it's the average of the menu. Yeah.
So, great presentation, thank you very much. Just a boring IT question. Are you sharing the data, or would you be willing to share it with other providers?
Yes, we do share the data. We are willing to share the data. I get the nod. I'm afraid I'm not a very tech savvy, so we can talk about this during the conference if you're interested. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the talk. Just a quick question: how do you recruit the persons for the dinner? Is that a network that you already have of vegans, and you say, "Well, we organize this dinner here. Please come," or?
Both, yes. So let me elaborate a little bit on that. Whenever there's a vegan challenge, we publish a Facebook event so that we share on our Facebook page. So there's 22,000 likes on our Facebook page, so people will see the event in the city that they live in. We encourage people to invite their friends. Frequently we get one person who sees the event who invites 5 other friends, so that's how the word spreads. If we encounter difficulty in reaching the number that we have committed to with the restaurant, we also have newsletters that we send. So we have VegOresto subscribers. We send emails to people who have previously participated in the vegan challenge dinners. And lastly, if we don't have enough people, then we call on L214 that has a vast list of subscribers to their newsletter, and we will generate a newsletter that specifically targets the area where the restaurant is based. So we'll send an email to subscribers to L214 letting them know that there's a vegan dinner happening in their area. And if worse comes to worse and we don't meet the number of, for example, we've agreed for 50 people and we have 40, then there's no problem. We'll let the restaurant know in advance so that they can adjust the quantity of food. So that's it pretty much. Thank you.
Nobody?
Have you maybe any plans to extend this idea to French hospitals or schools?
We would love that, yes, indeed. We would love that. Nevertheless, there's the administrative side and the fact that there's public establishments. So I think that is a whole different topic that we still need to consider. But L214 plans to approach these public establishments. It's not going to be necessarily through the VegOresto network, which is targeting restaurants that are private establishments. But for public establishments, L214 has plans on targeting schools and hospitals, as you mentioned. I think there was a quick question here at the front.
Did I understand you correctly that when the challenge is happening in the restaurant, that there's only this one vegan menu for the guests?
Yes.
And the restaurant will be closed just for this group, or is it open for anybody else too?
It depends. So to answer the first part of your question, it's a fixed menu. So it's only one starter, one main, and one dessert. So this is agreed upon in advance, and we publish the menu in our event so people know what they're going to have when they arrive. Then for the second part of your question, it depends on the size of the restaurant and also how many spots does the restaurant want to give us for our private event. Sometimes it's the whole restaurant and we privatize it. Sometimes it's just part of the restaurant. It depends on our agreement with the restaurant.
Nobody?
I just wanted to say that I think it's really important that you mentioned that you are willing to share the data. I guess you meant the restaurants, not the people's data.
Restaurant, yes.
But this is really important because this shows clearly that you think it's more important that more of this is happening than that you have a monopoly.
Absolutely.
I would, of course,
we're absolutely not interested in the monopoly. More, please. We can give the database to everyone. No problem. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.